Well, here we are, rounding off yet another BSA A65 engine story. And this one may not look complete, obviously it isn't, but I've done all my part with what I was brought by the owner, which is to just sort of rebuild the bottom end of the engine. And he also brought the cylinder head, which I fitted new valves and guides to. So that's all done. The valves and guides were absolutely knackered in this one. All good to go now though, and valve seats recut and reground as required. The bottom end, totally stripped it. The gearbox, I also looked at that. Let's see if we get a bit of a better angle, get more light on it. There we are. The gearbox, I checked that out. That's had one new bearing. This one, just behind the kickstart gear. Everything else was fine, although the other bearing was a sealed bearing which had both its seals in place, so I prized the inner one out so that it can share the gearbox oil rather than rely on just what it was packed with at the factory. So that's always worth bearing in mind, pardon the pun. If you've got a sealed bearing in a gearbox or an oily environment, it's always best to remove the seal on the oily side, or at least that's what I do. So anyway, there we are. The gearbox has all been checked out, one bearing replaced, reassembled, new seal for inboard of the sprocket. I've had the crank out, and this one had about 5/1000ths of an inch play on the timing side journal and bush, so it was on a worn -10. So I had it taken down to -20 and fitted a -20 bush. I did that first, then I took the timing side case to Aaron. He's the guy who does my crank grinds and rebores, etc. And just let him see for himself and mic up the bore in the bush and make sure he was happy with it. And then he machined the timing side journal so that we were within around about 1/1000th of an inch clearance between the journal and the bush. And obviously the crank spins nice and freely in it, even though it's in a new main bearing on the drive side case. There's no binding or picking up, as people often seem to get worked up about. All that's fine. And we've got 1/1000th of an inch crankshaft end float, so we're half a thou tight there. But I'm sure once the engine has run and warmed up and done a few miles, that'll probably increase a little. I'd rather have too little than too much anyway. So the big end journals were found to be okay. They were polished. The big end journals were polished. As I said, the timing side journal was reground, and new timing side bush, new drive side main bearing. The owner supplied a new SRM oil pump, so I fitted that. And I think that is my part of the project done. So what I need to do now is finalise what this is all going to cost and let the owner know, and he can come and get it, and then he's free to obviously rebuild the rest of it, which he's got over at his place still. I think he's got the barrels and pistons and primary drive bits and pieces like that. But we're all done here, so it's another one ready to vacate the bench, and then we'll see what we're going to be doing next.